Hey everybody, it's Rogway here, and I'm back with another tutorial. And today we are continuing on with our game programming intro. And today we're going to look at a few new things, a new variable type and also a new type of conditional statement. And so in this example, we have a pin pad. And what we're going to do, if you look at the file here, if we go to our second scene, we have the inside of a vault, all right? And so the idea here is that you would have to put the correct password into here in order to get inside the vault. And so let's look at a few things before we get started. If I click this block that right now says enter, and I go to the properties, okay, if you don't see it there, you can always go to window properties. Inside there, you're going to see that this is a special type of block of text. It's called an input text. You can change the type from this pull down. I think by default it's static, but you can change it to whatever you want. In this case, it's input text, and I gave it a name. I called it code. This is an instance name, all right? And it's very important. I'm going to explain what instance names are in a second, but that name could be anything you want it to be, as long as it doesn't conflict with a command in ActionScript. All right, so I just called it code. All right. So now let's take a look at the code that's on this particular page. So we could just go to Window Actions, or we could right-click this frame that has the actions on them. Either way. We're going to see that we have some pretty basic code attached to this. Now, if you've followed the other tutorials, you should recognize what this does. All right, we have a stop. All right, so it's going to wait until we do something. And then we have a chunk of code here that is applied to button 1, which in this case is the green button. And we got a chunk of code that is attached that goes to the red button. And if you look at what this is doing, I want to just break this down. I know I talked about this in the last tutorial, but I want to review. What it has done is it has assigned a name for the button. It's adding an event listener, which means it's basically listening or waiting for something to happen. And what it's waiting for is for the mouse to click on the button, all right? And when that happens, it's going to run this function. All right, FL click go to scene, and you'll notice down here we have the name that matches that. This is the function right here that happens when this mouse event happens, and what it's going to do, what it's going to perform, is whatever is between this bracket and this bracket. All right, so you always check what's in between the brackets, and you will see that the way that it is set up right now, if we click the green button, it's going to take us straight into the vault. If we click the red button, it's just going to stay at scene 1. Okay, so let's test that. Let's see if it actually does that. Control test. Let's start with the red button. It shouldn't change. Oh, that should not have happened. Let's try that again. Control test. Not really sure why that happened. They both seem to go to the vault for some reason. I'm not really sure why that's happening. But that's okay, because we're going to change it anyways. Okay, we're going to actually be changing what this does. All right, so let's start by manipulating the text that we have in the message area. So right now the message area is this enter text, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable. And again, we did this last time, but we're going to put VAR, short for variable. And then we're going to give it a name. And the name could be anything you want. In this case, I'm just going to call it input, because that's pretty much what it is. It's where the user is going to input some sort of a password or something. Then we have to tell it what type of variable it is. So we're going to put a colon, not a semicolon. Be careful for that. And we are going to use a string in this tutorial. And a string is a type of variable that stores characters and sentences and words. All right. So again, think of a variable as a container for something. All right, so we've called it input and we are using a string, which means that we're going to be storing letters into it. So we're going to say equals, because we want to put something inside the container. We're going to say incorrect. All right, the word incorrect. Oops, be careful that because it'll automatically make these quotations for you. Make sure you don't have an extra one. And don't forget your semicolon, okay? Very, very important. Okay? So, we have now created a variable called input, and we have put the word incorrect into that variable because it is a type string, which means it can hold letters. All right? So far, so good. Now, let's check if it's actually going to work. All right? So, in this case, what we want to happen is rather than the button 2 actually, sorry, before I do that, let's just check that it's actually working if they click button 1. Okay, so like I said, sorry, I don't want to confuse you guys. There are 2 brackets here. Anything that goes in between these brackets, which in this case is this right now, is what's going to happen when they click on the button. Okay, so button 1 is the green button. I'm going to just take this line out completely. Okay, just wipe it out. Okay, and what we're going to do instead is we're going to tell it to put this text that we just created, this variable, into the block that currently says enter. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, if you remember back when I showed you the properties of that button, of that text box, if I go back to the properties, it was called code. All right, so what we would do in our code here is we would put code, which is the name of the object, dot text, means that we are manipulating the text of that object, and we're going to say equals the variable we created, which is input. And if this works correctly, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. You know what? Yeah, okay, we could do this, but I'm going to end up moving it after. We're going to control test that. So if we click the green button, we should now see the word incorrect comes inside here. And the reason it does is because what it's doing is it's changing the box, the text box, to whatever we set input to, which is the word incorrect. All right, so we know that it is working. All right, for the red button, what we want to do is we actually want it to just wipe the text out of there. So it's going to be used for clearing the text out. So down here, we're going to go code.text equals, and we're just going to put a quotation like that with a semicolon. And basically, that's just a blank block here. All right, so when we click the red button, it's just going to insert basically no text into that code block. Okay, so let's see if that works. Control test. All right, so this will do incorrect, and this will clear it, which is exactly what we want. Okay, perfect. So now we got the start of something happening here. All right, now because I screwed up a little bit earlier, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to undo some of this, Command Z, and I'm going to go back to this point right here because I actually want to keep this go to scene 2. But what I'm going to do now up here under the incorrect variable, the one input, now here I'm going to put the same line, code.text equals, input. All right, so before this before this code even begins, it should replace it with incorrect right away. And then down here, let's do this again. Let's put it back to how it was, code.text equals blank semicolon if we click the red button, okay? So let's test this. You should see now that it changes to incorrect right away because it happens before it actually starts. This will clear it, and this will take us into the vault. All right, so everything's working exactly as it should. Now, Let's say we want to check to see if somebody puts in the correct password before we actually can go any further. And this is a super powerful thing. This is something you can use in your games quite often. It could be a login name and password. It could be a certain code, like in this case, to advance in the game. Maybe you would use a code to maybe advance to a level that you got to previously, and it gives you a code so that you don't have to replay the game up to that point. So that's another use for this. There's a lot of things you can do with this. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is we're going to go above the movie clip line here. Okay, we're going to go above it, and we're just going to hit the return bar, or the enter, to add a space. And we're going to say if, and this is conditional statements that we did last time, if code.text, which means the text that's in that block, equals, double equals, because we're comparing, whatever you want the password to be. Okay, so in quotations, whatever you want the password to be. Okay, so let me see here. Let's put D-Trump, as in like Donald Trump, and pretend this is his vault. Okay, and so if the code's text equals Donald Trump, D-Trump, we're going to put a curly bracket here, and we are going to put a closed curly bracket down here. Okay, so remember, anytime you surround something by brackets, you are basically telling it that if this matches, then play this. Okay, so it is an if-then, right? If this matches, then do this. All right, so let's test it. I like to test every single step. I'm going to clear it out. I'm going to type in here, and I'm going to put, let's just put some my name in here, and I click it. It's not going to do anything. But if I do put D Trump and I press it, it takes us into the vault. So it is working. Excellent. But let's say somebody puts in the wrong password. Let's say they don't know the password and they're going to just keep trying. Well, in this case, we're going to look at a new conditional statement, and that is the else statement. All right, so think about this in a sentence. If I practice hard at sports, then I will do well. Else, or otherwise, I will fail. Okay? So else is like saying otherwise, like if you didn't get this right, so you put else, then open up a curly bracket. You'll notice that it automatically closes it for us. Okay, that's very important that it's within the open and close bracket. Let's say the code.text will change to error, maybe. Or it could say wrong code or something. Okay, so now the code will change to say error. And if I go to control test that, you will see now that this should work entirely. So it starts as incorrect. We can clear it out. I'll put something random, click it, it'll say error. And then if I put in D Trump, now I get through. All right, so you can see how using this can be pretty powerful. It's a really easy way to add some interactivity and a little more, I guess, problem solving, or just more features to the game that you're creating. And you'll see that, again, once you understand the logic of it, it's very simple and it works really, really well. Now remember, code snippets are still going to be your best friend for adding the sort of starting code for this, but then you should go and manipulate it, add it, change whatever you want to it, and just see if you can do different things with it to make it work better. Anyways, I hope that was useful. Hopefully I'll see some of that in some of the games you guys create. Till next time, thanks for watching.